we finally have a little sunshine. One of the things that I thought you should really sort of get a bit of an understanding about is the difference between terrain theory and general theories that are out there in relation to our health. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is that a lot of science is based on supposition and long-term belief systems, and they don't tend to upgrade their knowledge. And one of the stats I heard a few years ago was that, and this is before the internet has exploded the way it is now, where you can get so much information so quickly, if it doesn't happen to be in one of those categories where it's censored overnight. Because as we know, history is changing as it's happening at the moment. Nothing is as it appears, and there's lots of stuff going on beneath the surface. But regardless of all that, about 15-20 years ago, when the microbiome was really being researched, and one day last year, I think it was something like an extra 100 or 200 peer-reviewed studies on the microbiome were being released every single day. And of course, the thing about the microbiome, it's all about germs. So what all of the researchers that I heard over 10 years of congresses and seminars was that we shouldn't be afraid of germs, that, you know, we are 1% human, 99% of our cells are actually germs and bacteria and that sort of thing. The viome is even bigger than that, so we have more viruses in our body than we have stars in the galaxy. So we are truly a part of the whole, and nature is part of where we get really good healthy microbiome. It's where we breathe oxygen when we're allowed to. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on where we are breathing in all sorts of plastics and toxins that are connected to cancer and heart disease and many other things. And in fact, this morning I listened to a podcast on the dangers of plastics. I've heard it, you know, as a naturopath. This has been part of my teachings with my clients over the years. Get those plastic bottles out of your fridge. Get into glass water bottles. You know, do as much as you can to reduce the amount of pesticides, herbicides. But anyway, avoid all of that for a second. So, terrain theory. It's what's going in your body, what's going on in your body right now. Every thought, every toxin, every bit of spirituality, every bit of prayer, every bit of exercise, every bit of sugar, every bit of alcohol, every bit of coffee, every bit of tea, every herb, every supplement. You put all that together with what you do, and that's your terrain. That's the terrain of your body. So when we're sort of thinking about it, there was a really cool study done that basically proved that terrain theory, well, it didn't prove it, but it was a very interesting study where they looked at a huge number of nurses who were, and I think it was in the US, jumping a puddle, where they were looking at basically just getting them to fill stuff out every year. So, and there was like 10 or 20,000, I can't remember, but it was many, many thousands. And what they were doing, oh, sorry, I've got ducks over here. They're pretty cute. So what they were doing was they looked at people who developed cancer over this, and I think it was a 20-year study. And they basically put them all into categories. And if you think about it, this is what the terrain was. So they asked people whether they meditated or not, yoga or not, exercised or not, maintained normal body weight or not, how much of their life they'd been obese or overweight compared to how much they'd been normal, whether there was trauma in their childhood, whether they took vitamins or mineral supplements, whether or not they tended to eat healthy, how often they ate junk food. You know, so basically these really impressively put together questionnaires that they would fill out every year over 10, 20, I think it was 20 years, and then basically compared to the cancer. Now, at the very end, they pretty much, because you can imagine, Big Pharma paid for this study, and the first result that came out of the study was, hey, natural therapies don't help. So that's sort of interesting in itself, but I'm sure you've seen things like that about antioxidants and folate and stuff over the years. Every so often there's a fairly big concerted effort to prove once again that things that are natural and cannot be patented are obviously no good for us. And at the very least, one of the things that they tend to do is try to create illnesses from those supplements or from those things as well. So, there was higher than normal levels in cancer for those who took antioxidants. So that was sort of interesting when they got to the end of the studies. But then some bright spark a few years later thought, hang on, there is so much data in this. We've got 20,000 women over 20 years, a massive amount of data. Let's have a look at it. And what they did individually was worked out that what you are doing positively before a diagnosis of heart disease, diabetes, cancer, obesity, that what you are doing on before, if you continue doing it afterwards, doesn't really change the prognosis. So if you're a thin person who develops diabetes, then staying thin isn't going to help you to get rid of diabetes because that's already part of your terrain. If you've taken probiotics before getting IBS or ulcerative colitis, you've already got that in your terrain, so it's not likely to change it. So it's the changes you make after a diagnosis for the better that actually then do add to longevity and better health. So what they did was looked at, say, people who were overweight and then lost weight. And it's amazing because it's something like for every 5 kilos we lose, we improve our health by 5%. So if we're overweight and we've got, say, 20 kilos to lose, then, by losing 5 kilos, and I can't remember the number, but it was some percentage like that. But basically what it means is, what a surprise, losing weight is good for us. And I think, that's basically my point. But doing it healthily. So if you just go and starve yourself, sorry, I take that back. If you're going to use intermittent fasting of any sort, go and listen to people like Dr. Eric Berg. Go and listen to people like Dr. Jason Fung, people who are experts in intermittent fasting, and listen and know what you're doing when you start doing it, rather than simply feeling that there are specific ways of doing it. And if you have the knowledge of what you're doing at the same time as doing it, you're going to get a better result. In the same way, meditation. They have done studies on meditation even with children with childhood cancers, and they have had those children doing meditations, visualizing, army dudes out there shooting the cancer cells. And the people who do the visualizations, because you're not going to get a 6-year-old to start visualizing, the immune system and the lymphocytes and monocytes and basophils and eosinophils. It's just not going to happen. So, you've got to make it simple. But the good thing is your brain knows what you're doing. So if you visualize the bad stuff, hey, we can use binding. So if you can visualize your body, and if just say your joints are a problem, if you visualize yourself moving easily, climbing up, doing some abseiling or climbing, imagine yourself, rolling, doing some judo or karate falls, you imagine yourself doing things that you couldn't normally do. Bit by bit, your brain starts to create an environment where it's more likely to be able to happen. The brain is incredibly powerful. And I think this is one of the things that's happened in the past year because, 99% of the people on the planet are so filled with fear. And, this has been a deliberate creation. If you think about it, what have we been taught over the last year? We've taught that our immune system is not worthy of taking care of us. We've learnt that our immune system cannot possibly fight a virus. This is the 7th coronavirus on the planet that works for humans. It's 20 to 30% of the common cold and flu. So it's one of those things that, we've learnt over the last year that we don't have any natural immunity to this, and that there's no possible way that we can fight it naturally. So, you know, that's all fine for the MSM people out there. But basically what the microbiome research showed us was that every gut bacteria, so we've got good gut bacteria and bad gut bacteria, which makes up part of our microbiome. And we've got kilos of it in our intestines. And you've probably heard me tell this story because I thought it was so funny. Jumping over a puddle. I actually had a person once, and what she wanted to do was take antibiotics and anti-parasitic stuff and antibacterial stuff until there was no bacteria left, because she wanted a totally clean intestines. And I said to her, if you kill all your bacteria, you will die. So, because people don't get it, we actually need them. They are crucial for health. So, and like, just look up microbiome on PubMed. There are thousands and thousands of studies. So it's not just 1, 2, 3, 4. And this has been going on for some years now, like 15 years or something. I can't remember how long, but it's been a long time that the microbiome has been discussed in relation to terrain theory in my world. So terrain theory, Dr. Zach Bush talks about it a lot. He's probably the main person I've heard in the last year really discussing it. Most people are simply discussing and what's going on. But then, so it's about looking at everything in your life, thinking about what you can change. I'm out in the sunshine today. It's been raining for about 2 weeks straight, except for our motorbike course on Saturday. It was a perfect day. So it's been raining for about 2 weeks, and it's funny because I was just watching a video on the pineal gland, which I shared on my New Leaf Natural Therapies Facebook page. I can't remember whether it was the group or the page or both, but it was about the attack on the pineal gland. And the pineal gland, as we know, so you know whales, you know, they spurt, they have that spurt that comes, so sunshine can actually get in and pretty much get onto their pineal gland when they're sitting up above the water. So our pineal gland's just in here, and it's linked in with serotonin and melatonin, but also our ability for thinking. So when our pineal gland is coated, we don't think as well as we otherwise could. So, and this is one of those things where the plastics in the water can really mess with it. And when we have the fluoride and the chlorine in the water, that can mess with our pineal gland as well. And I actually heard the other day that so can aspartame. So the artificial drinks, artificial sweeteners can really mess with it as well. But anyway, so hubby and I haven't been sleeping really well. And funnily enough, I don't think it's stress, although there's been a lot of that this year. But anyway, so, but I realised we haven't been out walking. We haven't been out walking in a fortnight. I've been hopping in the sauna in the morning, which has been fabulous. So I love my sauna, my infrared sauna. And so therefore I get a good sweat up. I know it's good for my immune system. I know it's good for, sort of just helping me to release stress. It helps to get cortisol out of the body, helps to boost all sorts of things. In Scandinavian countries, they've used things like infrared saunas and heating mechanisms, whatever they are. And in fact, the heating, then cooling, then heating, then cooling is really good. So going from an infrared sauna to a cold bath or a cold shower, it puts like a shock into your system, and that can really improve a lot of health conditions. So like the Wim Hof method of breathing, in the same way, if you look at the Wim Hof, he also talks about the cold. And so go check him out as well on YouTube. He's got a lot of videos about the Wim Hof breathing and the Wim Hof, and in relation to the cold and what that does in your body. So he got some really cool awards in relation to science or medicine or something like that, in relation to his methods. So the terrain theory, so what's going on in our body and what allowed our disease processes to grow. So my joints have been really sore all year. It hasn't been easy. And I know that I put on 3, 4, 5 kilos. Oh, well, even since 2017, we went on a big trip overseas. Thank God I did then. Anyway, so, because it may never happen again. But anyway, it's sort of like, so I know that over that time I got up to way beyond what I am now. I'm probably about 6 kilos less now than I was at the time. But 6 kilos for me is 20%, it's 10% of my body weight now. But at the time, I sort of think about 20%. That's obesity. So 10% more than your body average is overweight. But when you hit 20% more than what you should be, that's getting close to obesity. And then, of course, oh, lovely spider. Sorry, check him out. Had a huntsman in my kitchen this morning. I was not that brave. But that one is a metre above me, and I know St Andrew's crosses, and they just don't tend to move. So, huntsmen, however, not my friends. So yeah, so terrain theory. Oh, and I went to a psychic once, and she pulled out the spider card for me, and I immediately went, ooh, and she said, no, it's a power card. And I thought, this might be relevant to a lot of people, because spiders are a power card in that they have the ability, if they lose everything, to rebuild the next day. How cool is that at this time on the planet? It's feeling a lot of people are having a lot of things ripped away from them, and we need to be able to rebuild, otherwise we're just not going to make it. So we are, as always, interesting time on the planet. The terrain theory, what's going on in your body. So yeah, with my joints, obviously I know I've been in a lot of stress, with the whole belief system around the last year. Obviously I know I'm in the minority, and a lot of my family just, as usual, I've been a naturopath for 30 years. I'm used to being in the minority within my family, 27 years, something like that. But it's very interesting now watching what everyone are choosing to do play out. And it makes for very stilted conversations a lot of the time. So just got to keep it light, got to keep it happy, got to remember everyone's entitled to their choices. And yeah, so that's about it. Terrain theory. Yeah, so I did share the pineal thing on I've got about 4 or 5 groups on Facebook. I've got the Brain Centre at New Leaf Natural Therapies, and New Leaf Natural Therapies group, New Leaf Natural Therapies page, and it's being shadow hidden at the moment, so which is interesting. No surprise, but nonetheless, some stage surely censorship will become a bad thing, but maybe not. Maybe this is the beginning of the beginning of the beginning of the beginning, and it's just this new level, and it's going to get worse. That's a possibility as well. It's pretty along here. Thanks for joining me for a walk. Hope you're doing well wherever you are on the planet. Oh, and if you're on Twitter, occasionally I share things on New Leaf Tweets. New Leaf Tweets. That's me on, I've only got like 30 followers because I never mention it. But it's one of those things when I'm on Twitter and I see something by Big Tree or Kennedy or, whoever, I just share things on there. Anyway, take care. Have a beautiful day. Love you. Bye.